Hello, and welcome to another episode of AWS's Howdy Partner. I'm A.M. Grabelny. I am a partner solutions architect here at AWS, joined with, two really, really wonderful human beings, two of my favorites on this planet, and other planets too, for that matter. Hanara and Dr. Pete from A Cloud Guru. Hanara's over here. She's also a partner solutions architect here at AWS. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself, Hanara?
I am a partner solutions architect here at AWS, like Am already said. I basically take a look at our partners' infrastructure and validate it to make sure that everyone is following best practices. It's a little gist of my job.
Nice. And Dr. Pete, tell everybody who you are if they don't already know. I'm sure they already know.
Thank you, Am. First of all, hello, and thanks for having me on the show. It's a massive pleasure to be here. Hello, Hanara. So I'm VP of Education and Research at A Cloud Guru. So for those who don't know, A Cloud Guru, we provide cloud training for AWS and other technologies. We're a big platform. We teach individuals and businesses on cloud computing. And so my responsibility, my job is to help create the best possible education. And I'm excited to join you today. And we can talk a bit about tech and education and hopefully serverless. Should be fun.
Yeah, I'm really excited about today's episode. But before we get started, Hanara, who are we? What are we doing here? What is the show? What is the meaning of it all, of life, the grander thing that's happening here that we're all involved in?
It's a loaded question, Am. I probably can only answer the first part.
Really?
So today,
only the last part.
Just end it with like a full-on philosophical conversation. So today we're on Howdy Partner, and this is our AWS show where we get to bring on our AWS partners, get to know their solutions, and our AWS partners as well, like Dr. Pete here. And we'll just have some fun, talk about a couple questions that we have to ask Dr. Pete here today. And yeah, have some fun.
What are the most wonderful?
Hard, right? No hard questions. Maybe just a couple.
Oh, I don't know.
Now I'm a little worried.
You signed up. Even after I should tell the story of how we met, Pete. It was a really sunny, beautiful day a couple of years ago, and I was getting ready to host a 8-hour Twitch marathon game show, and in walks Dr. Pete. I'd never met Dr. Pete before, but it was a serverless game show that we were doing, and apparently you'll have to tell this part because I didn't know this. So Nikki Stone and I, a colleague of mine, if you've watched on the Twitch show for a while, Nikki and I used to run a show called Build with AM and Nikki. We were hosting the serverless game show where we put really cruel, I'd say, obstacles in people's way as they were building these serverless applications that we're throwing at them. One of my favorites was we limited everybody to using just the Lambda console, like the Cloud9 integration inside there, to write all your code. That's it. It was a lot of fun. But Dr. Pete was on one of the teams, and how did you join one of those teams, Dr. Pete?
So let me tell you what actually happened. So I was there in Seattle. On that day, I was supposed to come in and do a couple of interviews. One was supposed to be with Ben Keogh, maybe another one by myself. And so in the morning, it was about 7 a.m. Rebecca, who looks after the AWS Serverless Heroes program, comes to me and goes, "Hey, Peter, we need you. We need a hand. One of the people who's supposed to be on the show hasn't arrived. So we need you to be on one of the teams and we need you to compete. And foolishly, I agreed. And I was like, well, how hard can it be, right? We'll just implement a solution. It's going to be fun. Just, a couple of hours here or there, coding some Lambda stuff. It's going to be awesome. So let me tell you what it was like. It was on for 9 hours. We had like lights focused on us. It was hot. And the worst thing is, like, I remember I was in an amazing team with Jeremy Daly and Marshall Vivalba, and they were both great. But I remember I'm trying to program, I'm trying to implement something. Thanks, Am, for giving us those challenges, by the way. And I'm like, oh my God, how do I get this done? And I remember as soon as the camera would pan away from me, I would go to Google and I would Google okay, how do I get QuickSight started or something like that? And all right, I would read quickly through it and then switch to the AWS console and start kind of implementing as soon as the camera was back on me. So I don't know, I think I sweated like a bucket. It was just so intense. I have to honestly tip my hat to you. Doing that on Twitch every day is really intense.
I got the easiest job. I just talk to you all. I don't actually have to go code everything inside the Lambda console or anything. It
was nerve-wracking. Like, it wasn't easy just doing it with a camera on you. So yeah.
We made it a little cool and unusual. And when I say we, it was mainly me. I did most of those challenges. I think even Nikki was just like, whoa, that one's like really mean. Don't do that one. And I was like, we're going to do it. So for anyone joining us for the first time today, we do this show on Twitch because you all are there with us. You can ask us questions. You can generally direct the conversation, tell us what you want to hear about, what you want to talk about. So be sure to ask us questions in the chat. Hanara and I will both be watching. But before we get started, we've got a lot of things to talk through with a Cloud Guru. You all have just made some massive changes to the platform recently. So I'm really excited to hear about all those. But I wanted to talk with Hanara first for a little bit about the role that training and certification plays in a tech career, right? And if you've ever watched me on Twitch before, or if you've met me in person and talked to me longer than 5 minutes, probably one of the first things I told you was I used to be a teacher. I used to be an elementary school teacher. It's like how I humanize myself to everyone out there, how I make everybody immediately disarmed. And, I just pretend like, hey, I'm a human just like you. Please take pity on me. But really why I tell people that story so often is because I come from a non-traditional role for tech, right? And this is a big challenge. A lot of people have questions about this, and I think training and certification and platforms like a Cloud Guru come into play here a lot in a lot of the answers that people give. For example, one of the questions I get all the time, and Pete will probably come to you on this one at some point during the conversation as well. Do I go get a computer science degree or do I go through a boot camp? Like, what's the trade-off on those two things? And do I need a degree in CS to be successful in tech? Can I just do it with certifications? That's something. So, Hanara, I wanted to ask you about your own background in tech, if you're comfortable sharing that, which I know you are because we talked about it before the show. Spoilers. I'm just kidding. We just roll in here and no prep. All live. Anyway, so tell us a little bit about your background, Hanara.
Yeah, so I do have a bachelor's of science in computer science, but I started off not having a very high aptitude for math or science, and I ended up dropping out of a traditional high school setting, almost flunked all my classes, and just finished up the rest of my high school courses online. And then I went over to community college to start my collegiate career, where I started off as an English major. I just didn't know where else I could apply the skills that I had to any other field. And so I decided to stick within the humanities because like math and science and tech, that's not anything that I could ever do or be successful in. But I wasn't super satisfied with my English major, so I hopped around different humanities majors and fields. And in that time, I was working part-time at a mom and pop retail store. They had an online shop, and I helped manage that. And that's where I got my first exposure to development and coding. And I thought it was really fun, and I wanted to make the switch to computer science. So I took a look at the curriculum, and it was like Calc 1, Calc 2, DiffEQ. I was like, okay, I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know if I can do it. Am I really going to waste 1 to 2 years? And what if I fail and end up not being able to have the smarts or intelligence to finish up my bachelor's degree? But I kind of made the decision that semester that I rather fail doing something that challenged me and excited me than succeed in something that I knew that I could do, and I already knew I wasn't really satisfied with. So I made the jump to computer science. It was hard. My GPA is not very cute, but it's okay. We don't talk about that. And within like a traditional computer science like culture, it's very much like you go get your CS degree and you become a software engineer after, and you don't really learn about the cloud. You don't really learn about any other kind of jobs. And I don't know if this is really prevalent to everyone else experience who have been in CS, but basically there's like idea of if you don't become a software engineer with your CS degree, it's like you wasted it. You did all these programming courses. And if you're not going to be a software developer, like, are you the real deal? And did your bachelor's in science just go to waste? So I thought I had to kind of go down that route. And then there's just like a tech bro culture where you gotta have all these rules, and you gotta have like your transparent, dark themed terminal. If it's a white terminal, like, man, you are not the real deal. And if I'm being a little bit too sensitive about it, because I have a white terminal, so please don't judge me for my white terminal. But yeah, so I thought I would have to go into software engineering, but I was fortunate enough to have an internship where I was a software developer, and I had an architect on my team. And in her meetings, she had a super high level overview. She knew what our product was going to look like. She knew which services and technologies we were going to utilize. And I thought, that is very cool, and that's what I want to do. Looked up how to become an architect. Everything was like 5 to 10 years. Come back when you're ready. I was like, okay, guess I have my work cut out for me. I'll be a developer for like 5 years. But I was fortunate enough to get the job that I have now with AWS. And I don't know if it's as much as that I was fortunate enough to be an architect at my age and being a new grad, as much as I think the game is just changing. 5 to 10 years of legacy experience does not hold the same as it did before. And you really need to be able to adapt to the ever-changing cloud, ever-changing tech field. I think the most valuable asset you have is to learn and have the ability to constantly be excited and curious to learn. And that's where I think training and certification comes in. I have my job at AWS, but I am currently using a cloud guru to upskill what knowledge I have of AWS to be better at my job. So that's a little bit about me.
I mean, when you were telling me this, I was an English major too. I actually finished college as an English major and then went on to teach English. And I was just listening, when you were telling me this story the first time, and I was like, oh, man, all of this stuff sounds really familiar. Yeah, I mean, I learned the same thing where, like, if you don't use Vim, you're not a real programmer or something. And I was like,
but if you use Vim, it's like, have you heard of Emacs? Like, why aren't you using Emacs? Like, man, nothing's good enough for anyone.
It's always something you're doing wrong. Like, that's what I quickly learned as I was learning all of this stuff. same thing where I was just like, oh, because I like this thing, I'm wrong. Okay, well, anyway, yeah, I also had no idea that there were jobs outside of software dev. I was dev for like 2 or 3 years. I got started just 10 years ago, like just a little under a decade ago with this transition. And I chose I went back to school. I got a second bachelor's degree in computer science because I was worried about being gated by recruiting filters and things like that. And I went and picked the cheapest school possible and put it all on a credit card. I just did this on nights and weekends. I never went. The school is in Alabama. I've never been to Alabama. And nobody's ever asked me about my degree or anything, like in a job interview or stuff like that. The first job that I got really lucky. I got a job as a technical writer at a tiny little startup in Houston, Texas, where I'm from. And then I just convinced the CTO to let me like try to be a dev after I started going back to school for this stuff. And I just stumbled through it. It was really, really, really hard. All the math courses, I was just like, I don't know any of this. And I still don't know a lot of math. It's not something that comes up in my day to day very much. But yeah, I stumbled too into this world of there are more jobs just beyond the software dev. And I've done a lot of things with training and cert as well. That's how the school was just to get the piece of paper to open the doors. Honestly, I didn't learn anything. I learned a little bit, but it's all been, sites like a Cloud Guru, Linux Academy, all these training sites that I've just spent nights and weekends on. I don't know. What do you think, Dr. Pete? You probably hear this story from a lot of people working at a Cloud Guru. I feel like a Cloud Guru opens the door to tech to a lot of people like Hanara and me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember once somebody said to me that a Cloud Guru is a fast path to jobs, right? That's the beauty, because you can go kind of learn the skills that you need to know and then go get a job and become awesome at what you do. And I think what Hanara said was spot on. I think what's needed to be successful is that element of continuous learning. Because really what has happened, if you go back 20, 30 years ago, you were born, right? Then from, ages 0 to 5, you would play. Then you go to school from 5, say, to 20. Then from 20 to 65, you have a job and you're kind of locked into that job and you do it. And 65 onwards, you go back to playing, right? It's that retirement phase. But now what has happened is that you go 0 to 5, 5 to 20, but then you have a job, another job, another job every 3 years. So an average person will now have 12 to 15 jobs. And they're not necessarily like different jobs working for different companies, not at all. It could be the same company, it could be career progression, it could be promotions, but you require new skills, right? Each time you do something new or go up a step, you need those skills. So you have to kind of be continuously learning and continuously engaged and kind of interested. And that's what will make you really successful. And given how quickly cloud moves, that traditional computer science degree doesn't really work. I remember, I'm the same as like both of you. I remember I finished uni, I got my degree, went into the workforce, and I was like, oh my God, everything is different. Like, there's so much stuff that I haven't learned. What do I do? So I started learning on the job. So kind of that's one of the beauties of a platform like a Cloud Guru, because you get up-to-date education when you need it, right? You need to learn how EKS clusters work. Awesome. Let's go. Let's find out. Let's, do a lesson. Let's do some hands-on labs. Let's figure it out together with a professional instructor or somebody from the industry who has done it before. So it's a very kind of different type of education that's really there for you, that's up to date and is available at any time.
Yeah, I think it's just another one of those things too. Hanara's got a lot of great questions for you today. I wanted to start with one though. kind of tying back to what Hanar and I were talking about, when you're coming from a non-traditional tech role and you want to make the transition, you know, the thing that I don't hear a lot of people talk about, it's usually, do I get a CS degree or do I go to a boot camp, right? Like those seem to be the two routes that I hear most people considering. I don't know why they don't think of training platforms like a cloud guru. And you may be hearing completely differently at this point. What do you think about that, Dr. Pete? Do you think what's the route that opens the most doors for, probably the way I looked at it was the most affordable way to do it, right? Because I don't have a lot of capital personally, especially when I was making this transition. I had negative capital because I had debts. So I had to be very mindful of getting the most bang for my buck, so to speak. So what do you think? What do you think about that?
Look, we have a lot of stories of people, of our students coming from non-tech backgrounds entirely. Then, joining the platform, you do the first few intro courses, kind of get an understanding for what cloud and technology is all about. You build up some skills, you put, your skills into practice a little bit, and we can talk about that in a moment. And then you get your foot into the door. Then you go, get a job, maybe as that kind of associate software engineer or associate architect, kind of the first entry level. And then you continue building up. It is a completely valid way of doing things. And like I said, we've had a lot of our students coming back to us and saying, thank you, you've given me an opportunity to do something else, to do something different, to pick up a new set of skills. And now I have a job, and now I have a career, and I can grow and develop and do awesome things. So absolutely, you don't need to go and spend 4 years at a university. I spent 8 years at a university, and I can tell you now that was way too long, way too long. You really don't need that. With a platform like A Cloud Guru, you can get those fundamental skills and then, get into the workforce, get a job.
So,
sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Hernan.
So speaking of different career paths that A Cloud Guru students have gone down, can we talk a little bit about what the differences are between a developer in the cloud and a cloud architect, and even any PMs who deal with products or programs with the cloud?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would love your opinions on this as well, because it's funny. I find different companies have different definitions, even for what an architect is. But I think if we kind of just step back for a second, there are these roles like an architect and a developer and a product manager, for example. And at least to me, an architect, I guess there are 2 or 3 types of architects. You could have an enterprise architect, so it's somebody who is looking after the overall strategic kind of landscape, right? What is this major solution that we are developing? How does it align to our business goals? That person has to consider all the human factors as well. Who are the people using it? So it's kind of like a very high level, but very important role. Then you could have a solutions architect. So that person may be responsible for designing the solution of a particular component or application in your organization, right? And they will look at things like, design, right? How are we going to use AWS? How human factors as well, potentially, right? Who are the people using it? If we just focus specifically on AWS solutions architects, these are the people that do that, but they may also look at cost optimization, governance, compliance. They will look at, there's the well-architected framework which AWS has created, which kind of specifies how to cleanly and clearly design your system. So these are the architects that understand this framework, and they will kind of make sure that the solution that has been proposed follows the guidelines. And then we have the developers, right? So these are the people who will implement the solution. They will go and they will write the code and kind of get it all working. So I think it's interesting because in tech, there are so many different roles that fit very different aptitudes, right? If you want to manage a project, if you want to manage a solution, you can become a product manager, right? So you're not necessarily hands-on and technical and coding every day, but you're looking at kind of what are we building and why in conjunction with that solutions architect potentially. But you're looking more at the project management side of things, scheduling. So it's kind of amazing. I love our industry in a way because yeah, you don't have to have like those awesome math skills. I don't either. I really do not. But there are so many opportunities and so many different roles that you can kind of take and make your own. That everybody's welcome. Anybody can do this.
Yeah, I really appreciate that description of being an architect. So now, whenever my friends ask me, I'll just link them over to the Switch episode. Because that's always such a struggle for me to describe. But yeah, thanks so much for that rundown. Now that we kind of have a picture of what all these different roles are, as our VP of Education and Research at Cloud Guru, what are your recommendations for people who want to be a developer or an architect, for which kind of trainings and certifications on a Cloud Guru they could start with?
So here's what I would do. So first, obviously, go sign up to the platform. And then once you log in, you will see our learning paths. So a learning path is basically our recommended guidance for what courses, what content you should take if you want to become, an expert in one of these areas. So there's an architect learning path, there's a developer one, there's one for security. If you want to become a data specialist, there's one as well. There's even an executive learning path. And so the idea is if you want to become an architect, you click on the architect learning path, and I can share the screen and I can show to you what it all looks like. But that learning path will basically take you from the very, very start. It will take you from like the introduction. What is cloud? What are we even talking about here? What is this thing? You've heard the name, but like, let's talk about it. Like, is the actual clouds in the sky? Is it something else? And then it will kind of gradually take you like introduction to AWS. Okay, let's talk about the key services and principles and the idea. Then it will take you to that next level. Perhaps, we will suggest that you go for the certified cloud practitioner certification because it's a great kind of overarching certification that kind of teaches you these principles. And then you have to go see the exam and demonstrate that you have understood all that. And then it takes you to the next level where you get to do a certified solutions architect associate certification, that next level that really kind of teaches you everything that you need to know to design your own architecture in AWS. And between kind of those major pieces, there are other courses and content as well that will help you kind of get used to the security posture, kind of how to think about, cost, how to think about just a lot of other things, S3 storage databases. And you kind of just follow that progression. And we really kind of thought about it very hard and tried to design it to be as simple and straightforward as possible. So even if you have no tech background, you can start at the start and you can follow through kind of towards the end.
Yeah, so go ahead, Am.
I was just going to say, a lot of people, something that happened with me personally, right? A lot of people don't consider, getting a job that is tangential to tech or involved in a tech company that you can already do with whatever skill set you have. Like technical writing was for me. I was a writer. I was learning about tech. It really helped me to start getting my head into learning all this stuff and putting it into context. All the while learning, right? And things like at AWS, the cloud certified practitioner or certified cloud practitioner, whichever way that goes, that's really kind of a great gateway into starting to learn the cloud stuff while still participating maybe in the marketing team of a tech company or the sales team or just getting into the industry somehow, right? Even if it's not a traditional tech role, I would say is a really good first step too.
I think you're spot on. In fact, we find that a lot of non-traditional technical people go and do that certification because you could be in sales, you could be in marketing, but you kind of just want to understand what people are saying when they say certain things, right? And it really helps because you do that certification, and now you have an understanding of what cloud is like and kind of what the major pieces and features are. And that's awesome. It really kind of just opens up your mind and makes it easier to talk to your colleagues, to customers. It is honestly a worthwhile thing to do. In fact, we had everybody at A Cloud Guru do that certification. Even if it doesn't matter where you are, right? Whether you are in finance or customer support, it just gives you that empathy as well. It makes you understand just cloud that little bit more, even though you're not a technical person. And can I just add one other thing? Like, I know it's a little scary at the start. If you're not technical, it may seem like a whole, it's like, if I want to become a surgeon, like, my God, how scary is that? And like, we understand it is scary the first time you do it, but it is absolutely doable. You can do it. It's just take it easy, take it one step at a time. There's no rush. You don't need to go crazy with it. Just systematically, like, go through the course, do all the hands-on labs, try it yourself, go over things multiple times, ask questions, reach out to other people. It does make sense, and it will make sense to you. It's supposed to be for everybody.
Yeah, thanks so much for saying that. I actually have something else to add on, because I really struggled when it came to anything tech. I even still kind of struggle, and I like get so mad at my Mac. I don't know how to use this thing sometimes. But I had an idea that you had to be like super smart or super intelligent to be able to get into this industry, or even declare a major like computer science. And a lot of my friends look to me sometimes and say like, "Oh, Hanar, you're so smart, you just get it." And they have no idea how long I've spent trying to, overcome that learning curve when you switch to a totally different way of using your brain. And unfortunately, I've seen this at universities, like professors will kind of shake off students as like, "Oh, they just weren't smart enough, or they just didn't get it. So this field or this area of study is just not for them." When I think really what people need is for a way to have educational content that's consumable for them and that actually speaks to them. Because I used to be a private tutor in STEM for about a year and a half, and I've never blamed my students for not being smart enough, for not understanding concepts. It was always my job as a teacher to understand where they're coming from and provide them the educational content that speaks to them and gets them to where they are. So if you're just starting out, you totally got this. Just look for the content. A Cloud Guru has a lot of really good series that you can find caters to where you're at and build you up, instead of you having to work despite the learning curve. Work with educational pieces that will work with you and speak to you.
That's it, exactly. And so Ryan Kronenberg, who created the original courses for A Cloud Guru and turned out to be an amazing educator. What I found watching his content was there was something amazing. There was a lot of the empathy in his content, because he would go and say, "Look, I know this is hard, right? You're learning about IAM or VPCs for the first time. And if you've never done this kind of thing, it is difficult. Like, nobody's citing, but let's just go through it. Let's take it one step at a time." And so he would show so much empathy and so much humility. It actually just made watching and going through his content so amazing. And that's what I loved about it. And then, he would come up with funny analogies and funny metaphors and, whatever little educational techniques he would use to make you remember certain things. But like, it is true, like, we just need to show empathy for one another here. Like, when you're starting out, it can seem daunting, but it doesn't have to be. It's, we all have to support one another here.
Yeah, it's a whole other language almost, and it's yeah, there's a lot of mountains to get over before you can even start climbing, so to speak. So we've actually got people in chat already pointing out that you all have joined forces with Linux Academy. And I know we've got a lot of exciting things to go through. Dr. Pete's gonna actually show us some of those new things and some of what's come of these two cloud titans joining forces. And I don't know. What do you think, Hanara? What should we do next? Do you have? I know you've got some more good questions. Should we show a little bit of what a cloud guru has to offer first?
Yeah, let's start with that.
How does that sound, Dr. Pete?
Sounds wonderful. Then let me share my screen, if that is okay with you both.
Yes, please do. I'm gonna have to switch around our
excellent
Twitter handles here. Dr. Pete is not that crazy set of letters. That's me. Those are my initials.
Hopefully you can see my screen. Can you guys see that?
Yes, you should be live.
Love it. So look, we are all about awesome hands-on training for individuals and businesses. It's all about skills and building those skills, like we've said. So this is the A Cloud Guru platform, and you're looking at my dashboard. This is my individual dashboard. I'm signed up as a user. You can see kind of like the course that I was just watching, and it actually happened to be the Certified Solutions Architect Associate course. Funny that. And as you scroll down through your particular custom dashboard, you will see things like recent courses and recommendations. And actually, speaking of learning paths, we have some here, right? So we have the architect learning path. This is what I mentioned before. This is how you can actually start with A Cloud Guru. So when you sign up and let's say you are interested in, becoming an architect or even just figuring out what that is, what is an AWS architect? All you simply have to do is click on a button, and then it will take you to a page that will kind of guide you through the content that we recommend that you take. So you get a bit of a description, and then it starts, right? So you get some material like Introduction to Cloud Computing, a really funny video from Corey Quinn that I highly recommend watching. It is hilarious, and it will just set you, it'll put you in such a good mood. Then, you start kind of learning about identity and access management, which is kind of important for AWS, right? And then maybe you'll do some, there's a cert prep guide where we teach you how to actually think about certifications, introduction to CLI, and then you will start doing kind of the first major course, which is the Certified Cloud Practitioner that we spoke about before. And so you can go through these learning paths and kind of build up your knowledge and your skill set. But coming back to my dashboard, you can kind of scroll down and see other recommendations. One other thing that I want to mention is that apart from our course content, we have a lot of shows that we produce. So we have weekly, monthly shows that we create. And these are designed to really kind of keep you either in the loop, get you familiar with maybe new services that are coming out, or just give you an update, right? So we have this show called AWS This Week. So it's a weekly show. It's 5 minutes. You can literally watch it while you brush your teeth, on Monday in the morning. And it will tell you what are the new things that have happened with AWS in that week. And that's kind of amazing because we all know that keeping up to date can be so hard. Things change so quickly. It can really be a full-time job. And what we do is we distill all the happenings, all the events into this 5-minute summary video. And we'll tell you, hey, maybe there's a new version of Lambda runtime that has come out, or maybe there's a new EC2 type. So you just know, right? And then maybe if it comes up in your job or whatever it is you're doing, you can go and find more information on it.
Dr. P, I'll give you a soundbite right here. I work at AWS. It is my full-time job to keep up with AWS and what it's doing. That is my job, literally. And I come and watch these shows because, we put out a lot of stuff. These shows are highly valuable to me. So thank you. Thank you for
No, awesome. Thank you. That warms my heart, and I'm sure our team will be very thankful for that, because we have a lot of people who are very passionate about AWS, and they care a lot. So they will love hearing this. They really will.
I'm a fan.
Yeah, thank you. And then we have other shows. So you can learn Alexa, or we kind of review new services as they come out. So a lot of cool stuff, right? But let me just scroll to the top, and I just quickly want to show you a couple of really cool features that I absolutely love. First, though, let me just click on the browse page. So you can browse for different courses. You can search for different courses or content. And if you click on the browse page, you can see, we have like 325 different courses, so many chapters, so many lessons, hands-on labs, which I will cover separately in a moment, because those are amazing. And you will see in a second. And then there are practice exams and quizzes and a whole bunch of other things. And just a hot tip, if you are going for an AWS certification exam, for example, make sure that you do the appropriate practice exam before you sit for your certification, because our practice exams will give you a good indication as to whether you're ready or not. So if you can pass our exam, that's a good sign. If you're failing it, perhaps there's a little bit more study that needs to be done. And maybe another little tip, if you are already an experienced professional in AWS, we have found that a lot of people do the practice exam first before doing a course, and that allows them to quickly identify if they have any gaps. And then they can go and they can strategically watch portions of different courses or kind of the main certification course to fill in those gaps, right? So maybe you will identify that I understand S3, I understand Dynamo, I understand VPCs, but I don't really get Elasticcache or something else, right? And that will allow you to kind of, in a targeted way, do a little bit of study. So
yeah, let's pause real quick. We're about 45 minutes into the stream. We've got some new people joining. In case you just tuned in, you are watching AWS Howdy Partner. Howdy Partner is a show where we bring in AWS partners from the AWS Partner Network. And today we have Dr. Pete from A Cloud Guru, one of my favorite partners of all time, because A Cloud Guru is how I go and study for any certification that I'm going to take. It is the first and last stop that I make. And Dr. Pete is here today to talk to us about some of the changes and features and new things that they've added since joining forces with Linux Academy, and just some other things. Every time I log in, I feel like you all have something new. Honestly, like it's pretty amazing. But yeah, we're going to talk about that, and that's what we're looking at now. I think later on we're going to talk about how you all built one of probably the world's best serverless applications, because all of the architecture running A Cloud Guru was serverless. I know we can talk about that a little bit, but yeah, if you're watching, please ask us questions. I know Dr. Pete is happy to answer anything. Hanara and I are happy to answer anything. So please ask us anything. Sorry, go ahead.
No, thank you. And I just wanted to say that, it's important to think about certifications, but I would say that just thinking of skills and building up your skill set is arguably even more important. So I just want everybody to think that, getting certified is akin to getting a driver's license, right? It's akin to saying, yeah, I understand the concept, I can speak the language, I get it, right? But then to become an excellent driver, right, you have to practice. You have to kind of actually build things yourself. And so I just want to say, don't stop there. Just if you go get certified, just don't make that your terminal point. You should continuously develop your skill set and learn new skills. Anyway, I'm not going to go through this entire page, but it makes it a bit easier to find courses that are new, that have been added, and new things that we have produced over the last few weeks. And there are various categories, whether you are a beginner, whether you do want to get certified or stay up to date. There's various things you can look for. Now, can I show you, please, two of my favorite features? And these are amazing. And these have happened thanks to, Linux Academy and A Cloud Guru coming together. So labs, hands-on labs. This is so very cool. This is all about that hands-on kind of knowledge, kind of learning hands-on. So we have this little category here called labs, or you can search for labs in the search bar. And what labs are is that you get an environment in AWS where you can actually go and do things yourself. So it's all hands-on. We will provision the environment for you, we'll put you into it, and then you can go and try things out. And depending on the lab, we'll give you instructions, we'll give you a video, we'll give you a task, we'll be like, hey, I want you to go and provision an EKS cluster. Can you do that? And if you can, awesome. And if you get a little bit stuck, we have all the instructions and kind of all the guidelines that help you get through it. So it's an incredible way to learn, do things hands-on, and kind of get that skill set. So let me just quickly show you what that looks like, because this is just, I love using this, by the way. So here we go, launching an EKS cluster. So it will take about an hour, we think. Let's say it's that kind of like apprentice level content. And we give you some objectives. These are the things you will do in this hands-on lab. So I will click on the Start Lab button, and the lab will launch in just a few moments. And then I will also show you cloud playgrounds and sandboxes. There's just so much cool stuff. You'll have to stop me because I can talk about this for 2 hours, just letting you know.
That's okay. We only have an hour left, but
you may have to stop, just do a hard cut at the end. Because
I've somehow gotten involved in the world of Kubernetes. I don't know how this happened. I think, like you, Pete, the last 5 years or so of my life have been primarily in the serverless world, but recently, I don't know what's happened. I don't know what dark alley I turned down on accident, but I've also ended up in this Kubernetes world too. Have you done this hands-on EKS lab? Are you getting into the Kubernetes world yourself as well?
You know what? I've been the serverless guy for so many years now.
Yeah.
I struggle with Kubernetes. I really do. I'm like, why? So this is why I literally need this lab to walk me through, EKS, Kubernetes, to help me figure it all out, because my gosh, it's like, this stuff is difficult. It really is.
It is. How do you feel about Kubernetes, Hanara? Are you a fan? Have you used it?
I have no idea. Please don't even ask me. I have no idea what it is. So I still refer to it as ECS on Kubernetes, which I hear is just like such a gross oversimplification, but that's my cop-out answer for now.
That's awesome.
Let's start it up.
Here you can see your lab has opened up, and you have a video which will take you through the actual lab. So we will show you what to do so you can follow along. You have your console credentials. So we have created an account just for you. And by the way, this password will cease to exist in a few moments. It will no longer work, but you can try it now. But the idea is that you can copy the URL, you can go into the AWS console, log in with this with these credentials, and we will look after everything. So we will look after the costs. You don't have to worry about. You can just focus on the lab. You don't need to have your own account. And then if you don't want to watch the videos that help you get through this lab, there's also a written guide, so you can actually just read and follow the steps yourself. And this will literally take you, through the entirety of the lab, setting everything up, getting everything going. It's kind of amazing. So if your boss tells you at work, hey, I want you to set up an EKS cluster, you can literally come to A Cloud Guru, search for it, and get like a hands-on example that you can follow.
Yes, that's exactly what I would do. I have to brag on Hanara a little bit here because I know she won't do it herself, so I'm going to do it for her. I think this is actually this is something that is really, we hear this from our customers, additionally too, that everybody wants to have this environment, this sandbox type environment where they don't have to worry about the bill. They can just focus on learning. Our team of partner solutions architects specifically, we have a lot of essays that work on this, but Hanara actually has built some really, really cool stuff for this. We have something called Game Day at AWS. I'm sure you've probably been a part of a game day before at some point, Dr. Pete. But yeah, Hanara has built a bunch of these modules for game day, and it's a way that we as AWS can come in and give you an environment. But how cool is it that you actually don't have to talk? I mean, it's not cool because you don't get to talk to me or Hanara. But it is cool that, like, a Saturday morning, you just wake up and you're like, I want to learn some stuff today. You can go do so in a controlled environment that you don't have to worry about getting a crazy bill for later because you forgot to turn off your EKS cluster after you spun it up, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's massive, right? Like it's a safe environment where you don't have to think. You can just focus on technology, on what you're trying to learn, and you don't have to think about all these other things. And like think of, say, a company, right? So massive organization. Usually environments are quite locked down, and you can't actually access and play in AWS as freely as you may like. Some companies don't allow you to use Lambda, for example, or whatever it could be. But this is amazing. You have 2 hours of downtime. Awesome. Jump in, try out Lambda, try out EKS, try out like the latest and greatest, or go and learn, how to set up this massively scalable, EC2 redundant array of servers or something like that. I'm just making up names now. But it's like it's so much fun and it's so easy that you can actually just jump in and do it and learn along.
Yeah, we've got a couple of questions in chat. Also, I wanted to say if you wanna have a game day run for you, track down Hanara. Just find her somehow.
Really putting me out there.
Yeah, she will personally set up a game day for you. You right now. I don't know if she will personally, but so one of the questions are most of these labs actually part of a course or are they standalone?
Both. So we do, yes, yeah. So all labs are designed to be standalone, so you don't actually need to watch a course to understand what the lab is trying to show you. So every lab will provide the necessary context before you begin. So there will be a video and a guide that will tell you, okay, here's where we are, this is what we're trying to achieve, and this is the outcome. However, we also do include our hands-on labs in courses where necessary, where we can reinforce certain messaging or reinforce a lesson we'll put in a lab that way it makes sense. And the idea there is that, watching a video and maybe sometimes following along the instructor, it's good, but it can be a very passive activity. So we want people to actually go and do things hands-on, hands-on, hands-on. That's our kind of main message, because really adults learn by doing things themselves. That's really one of the most effective, if not the most effective way to learn.
Yeah, back when I was a teacher, this is probably outdated information by now, but 12 years ago when I was teaching, one of the biggest buzzwords in teaching was differentiation, right? In content that you were building for a classroom. As many ways as you could present it, visually, auditory, all the different types of learning methods that you could incorporate into one lesson, you reach more people, right? So we actually had another question too. Hanara, do you see the question from Dream Traveling, and do you want to ask it?
Yeah, so Dream Traveling asks, coming from a network field, but they're worried about wanting to get inside AWS, asking, do you believe I have to give 1 to 2 months to go over Python and Linux so they'll be ready for CCP or a SAA?
What do those stand for, by the way? We gotta expand the acronym. or initially? A cloud certified
Cloud practitioner.
Certified
Yeah.
cloud practitioner and certified
And then
solutions architect associate. I'm guessing.
right? Yeah, that's the associate. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have both of them.
Yeah. What do you think are the prereqs here, the prerequisites, Dr. Pete, for CCP and SAA?
Yeah, so was the question whether you need Python and
Linux.
Yeah.
Linux? No, you don't need either of those things for those two certifications at all. You will not be tested. The CCP, so Certified Cloud Practitioner, is really about concepts of AWS. It's understanding what availability zones are and how they're different to regions. It is really knowing about the high level kind of the core services. What is S3 and how is it different to RDS, right? For example, it's knowing what Lambda is. It's knowing about the different plans and billing and technical support that you get. So that's kind of the conceptual certification. The next one, Certified Solutions Architect Associate, that is a much more hands-on, not hands-on, but it requires more practical knowledge of AWS for sure. So there'll be questions on VPCs and EC2s and Elastic Cache, and really it's understanding kind of the architectural elements. But again, you will not be asked any Python questions or any Linux questions.
Yeah, I think every cloud is guilty of this, by the way, not just AWS, but a lot of things exist in the cloud that you may already know what they are, like just a server, a VM, you know that concept. One of the first steps is translating that into whatever cloud that you're working in, into whatever we call it, right? So in AWS, learning that EC2 is equal to running your own server in the cloud. That's essentially like what a lot of CCP is about and how those pieces fit together. We had another question, Dr. Pete, from Janice Q. Can you use notebooks like Jupyter notebooks on the Cloud Playground?
Not at this stage. Well, you know what? Let me take it back. Let me just show you a few other things. Not directly, but let me show you just a few other things and we'll talk about that. With Cloud Playground, so here's what we have. And it will clear up my answer. So we have sandboxes. So sandboxes are literally a way for you to provision kind of that test environment in AWS and go crazy in it, right? So you can, for example, create a Cloud Playground yourself, right? Open the sandbox, so it will open just the AWS console, and then you can open SageMaker, and you can go and learn how to do data science, and you can use Jupyter notebooks within kind of the context of AWS. You can set it up yourself if you want, whatever it is that you kind of really want to achieve. So like this is a proper full environment that you can use. And you have your access key ID and client secret and your password that, once again, everybody can see. So I'm just going to click on delete sandbox, just so nobody can go and do stuff. And by the way, we do monitor this as well. So if somebody starts to abuse our sandboxes, we will know really quickly.
So no Bitcoin mining is what you're saying.
Please, no Bitcoin mining. Yeah, we have protections built in, please. And then we have, this is very cool. I'll show you this first. So we have cloud servers. So this is the cool thing. So I can launch a server, right? And I've had a couple of running already. And so this will run in AWS, but this will quickly provision a server with the appropriate software for me. So if you're trying to learn Kubernetes, right? I can get a cloud native Kubernetes server provisioned for you really quickly right now. Or maybe, you do want to go and, learn a little bit more about Linux. Or maybe you want to do something else. If you want to go and, remind yourself how to use Red Hat or something like that. So you can quickly provision a server and we'll give you the credentials and you can SSH straight into that server. If it's Windows, awesome. Go set up Windows. Maybe you can deploy a little bit of code that talks to AWS from that Windows server. So you don't have to do it from your machine potentially, but you have all of that kind of available at your fingertips. And then finally, we do have SSH, right? So it's like a terminal built into our website. So you don't. So a lot of companies, may prevent you from using SSH. There may be some firewall rules. They kind of stop you from doing what you want. So we have that SSH built in, so you can go and remote into any server that you have provisioned. And let me just click on that again.
Got a few questions. One is about what is a Jupyter Notebook. Jupyter Notebook, I'll just give you a really short definition quickly for anybody who hasn't used one. Big in the machine learning world, it's a way to package up machine learning algorithms, some of the models you're training, and Python commands with documentation. You can package it all together in one of these Jupyter Notebooks and then distribute them to other data scientists, other people that need them. One of the questions, though, daily disclosure, thank you for that, by the way, too slow to draft, but daily disclosure is asking, how much can you talk about the architecture of how you're doing these, of how you're spinning up these servers and how you're spinning up the cloud playgrounds behind the scenes? I don't know how much you want to go into depth there, Dr. Pete, but can you shed any light?
I'll mention it just at a very high level briefly, but obviously, we have, for cloud sandboxes, we have a large number of accounts pre-provisioned and pre-created, that when you click on a cloud sandbox that you want to have one, we will kind of provision a clean new account for you. And then after it is done, we will basically erase the entire thing. So we will create and delete accounts, and it's all under the AWS organization's umbrella. And look, I'm sure our teams will, our tech teams will publish blog posts in the coming weeks and months that detail how it is done exactly. And I think what I'm really interested in, not just the creation and deletion of these accounts, but kind of the monitoring for abuse.
Yeah.
That's what I'm interested in. How do you actually monitor whether somebody has just created a bunch of EC2s and are mining for Bitcoin? Because that has been implemented, and it's really interesting.
I wonder if there's any AWS config at work there. I don't know.
That's what I would choose. That could be, yeah. But it's so interesting because, like we were saying before, that our platform used to be entirely serverless. It was kind of maybe the first massive serverless platform ever built. But now we have, EC2s running as well. So it's no longer a pure serverless model. It's okay, but it's just, a funny thing. We can no longer claim to be a completely serverless company.
How many tears were shed over that, Pete?
I cried a little bit, yeah. But I'm okay now, I promise.
You all own and manage and promote a serverless conference too, right? You want to plug that a little bit, because you all have been so active in the serverless community. Serverless Conf.
Serverless Conf, yeah. So it's a conference that we started back in 2016.
It was GenConf back then, right?
No, it was always Serverless Conf, and then there was another one which was JeffConf, which was renamed to Serverless Days.
That's right. I always get the two confused. I apologize.
That's okay. It's all right. But yeah, Serverless Conf, it's just really it was kind of like the first conference on serverless architectures, and it was really brand new because Lambda had just come out not far back. I don't know if you know the story of A Cloud Guru, but Sam Kroonenberg, the founder of A Cloud Guru, so his brother is Ryan, he built the initial platform in 4 weeks. And so he did it all, serverlessly. He used all the serverless components. And he really, and I agree with him, he attributes the success of the platform to going serverless because he was able to build it so quickly and innovate so rapidly that suddenly there was a company up and running, right, that was serving thousands of users. We knew that we would have quite a few users coming onto the platform rapidly. So this wasn't like a slow trickle startup, like we knew there would be traffic. And we didn't have to think about the elasticity, kind of provisioning more servers and handling the load, because it was all like Lambda. We knew it would scale elastically and we would only pay for use, right? So if we were having people on the platform, awesome, right? We're doing a good thing. We're serving the needs of our customers. And if there's no one on our platform, we don't pay. And I think that really, that was so different. And so this is like 2016, end of 2015.
Yeah.
It was so different back then that at the start of 2016, we were like, maybe we should organize like an event and talk about it because it's so cool and so different and so wild. And so we did this. And like, we're not conference organizers. I have never organized a conference or an event in my life. And we were like, so how hard can it be to organize a conference, have people fly in from all over the world? Couldn't be that hard, right? I can tell you now, I have a lot of respect for conference organizers. It's a damn hard thing to do. Wow. And so we ran that event in Brooklyn in the middle of summer. Coming from Australia, we forgot that it could be hot in the middle of May in Brooklyn. So we had this warehouse with just like a massive fan rotating in the ceiling. And I remember people were there like sitting and sweating, and we were like buying ice creams from a nearby shop just to stay cool. But it was amazing. It was the first event of such kind. Yeah. And everybody stayed. People loved it. Like, people stayed until the end, even though everybody was just dying. And I remember people were jokingly calling it like the hottest conference on earth, literally, because it was so hot. Now, since then, we've improved, we've become better, like we've learned how to do it all, but it was just an amazing grassroots kind of enthusiasm that really got it going.
I have to do a little Bruce Springsteen glory days here of my own, and also redeem myself for mentioning Jeff Comp. I'm really sorry, but back in 2017. I was working at Box, the storage company, right? And I pushed for Box to be a sponsor of serverless conf in Austin in 2017. I was doing a bunch of serverless work with a bunch of stuff at Box, and so we bought a booth, and it was April in Austin, so you all had it in the outside of the Zach Theater. Of the parking lot in this tent. And I was at the booth all day. And to your point, I stayed all day, and everybody did. We had booth traffic the entire time because everybody was so passionate. But I've never gotten more questions of, why is Box here? And it was because I had built all this serverless stuff alongside actually another one of our partners, Auth0. That we've had on the show. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm a big fan of serverless conf. I love it.
I had no idea it was you, because I organized that Austin conference as well. I had no idea that it was actually you who made the sponsorship possible and was there at the booth. That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've just learned something new. That's crazy.
Small world. Yeah, totally.
That is amazing. Can I tell a quick story about Serverless Conf Austin? It was actually the very first time I met Forrest Brazil, who works for A Cloud Guru as well. He's also an AWS serverless hero. And he did the talk at the theater, and he rapped. He had this amazing rap at the end of his presentation. And I remembered everybody talking about it. It's on the website. If you go to our website, you can have a look at it. It was just amazing. And I was like, wow, this guy is just so talented. So check out the rap. So if you go to acloud.guru or acloudguru.com and log in, you can actually sign up for free, and you can watch a whole bunch of things for free. You don't even have to pay, and you can watch serverless conf presentations. And I remember another event. We had Tim Wagner, who was the GM of serverless at AWS. He was supposed to do a keynote presentation on the last day of the event. And I get a message from him the night before saying, hey, my plane has been rerouted and I will not make it. And I remember we had to scramble and reorganize the entire schedule for day 2. because suddenly we lost our keynote speaker. And I remember what was amazing. Tim made it to the end, so he did the closing keynote, the lock note, and I was forever thankful because like it wasn't his fault that his plane got diverted somewhere else, but he still managed to make it to Austin to deliver that final just closing note, which just made the whole conference so very cool. So yeah, lots of stories that we can reminisce about next time.
I'm telling you, I went full Bruce Springsteen glory days there. That was and Hadar is sitting there like, these two dudes just need to move on, you know. It's 2020. Anyway,
that's your origin story. It's how this show came to be. You guys were always meant to meet.
That's right.
That's it.
We Taz asks who's Bruce Springsteen. It's a musician for old people. Yeah, he's the boss. Actually, I shouldn't be disrespectful to the boss. I love Bruce, actually.
Can I just mention two quick things before I stop sharing?
Absolutely, totally.
We also have, I think what sets us apart is to have this awesome forums, our forums built into the platform. So, I think education should be social. You should be able to ask questions and talk to other people and, get feedback. So, like if you get stuck, we are available, as well as thousands of other students that you can ask questions on the forum. So that's a really cool feature. And then, of course, for companies, organizations, if you sign up, there's like a whole array of amazing things that you can do with reporting, study groups, so you can organize people if you want them to go and do a certification together. There are like cert accelerators that will give you a guided program each week. This is what you must do. And then you can, just see how people are tracking and how they're going through content. So yeah, a lot of cool things for orgs, for companies. Yeah, just check it out. Go sign up, try it out. I think there's a lot of great education here that you can pick up.
I love it. Yeah, Hanara, I know you had some more questions.
Yeah, so earlier we had someone mention the Linux Academy and A Cloud Guru integration. So I was curious what the process was like for integrating the two platforms. What were like the tech and business challenges, and what are some aspects that made the integration easy?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting question. And look, coming into it, it was such an experience for me personally, because I've never been through an acquisition before. I've never been in a situation where two companies kind of had to come together. So it was a real learning experience. So I think what really helped us come together was both companies were in education, and both companies really cared for our students. And even though we approach certain things from different perspectives, like how we build our infrastructure, we were all serverless. Linux Academy, was using servers, and even how we build some of the content. What helped was that we were both focused on the student. So our mantra was student first. We will do whatever we need to do as long as it benefits our student. It's actually kind of reminiscent of AWS's, kind of like the customer obsession piece, because it's the same, right? Customers for AWS, students for us, but they are our customers too. And I think that really helped to guide us. So what we did, we established what we called an operating system across departments. So me being in content, for example, looking after education, we came up with our operating system. How, as a combined team, will we now act and operate? And our engineering team did the same. How, as a combined, bigger engineering team, will we now work together? How will we interact? So that was number one. Number two, we formed a number of little groups. I'll now talk about content for a minute. We formed a number of little groups that really helped us figure out that third way forward. So, for example, what is our new andragogy? And andragogy is the science of adult education. So, in other words, how do we create new education going forward? What are some of the attributes that we need to think about? And what we did is we surveyed customers from Linux Academy, from A Cloud Guru. We surveyed our stakeholders internally, externally, and we really kind of focused on figuring out what people love, right? What do they love in education? And I can tell you that with Linux Academy, they had so many fans. They had super amazing, deep content. They had deeper content than anybody else on the market, easily, right? Super interesting. If you want to become a true professional, you would go and you take Linux Academy content. And so obviously, we're taking that depth, and we're taking some of the presentation elements that A Cloud Guru had, because people, especially if you're a beginner, they would love A Cloud Guru content because it's so, like I said, empathetic and interesting and fun. And so we're kind of combining the best of worlds together. And so, yeah, we created an operating system, kind of the third way of moving together. And our engineering teams had to do the same, right? They had to work out how to work together, how to bring the platforms together, and how to kind of build up. And yeah, it took us quite a few months, but I think we got there. And now we have like 325 awesome courses, 1,500 hands-on labs that you saw. And there's so much more cool stuff coming down.
Yeah, it sounds like an alignment of values really took you guys to the finish line. But that's awesome that you put the students first, and that made it a lot easier for the integration.
Yeah, definitely. And you're right, values. That is so important, really, because it's that guiding light. Because then, if there's ever a discussion about what decision to take, it really guides you to that right outcome. Is this in the best interest of our customer, our student? So yeah, but look, anybody watching this, I would love feedback, from them. What are you happy with? What do you want improved or changed? We're always iterating and improving, and we will never stop. It's just what we want to do. We want to deliver the best product for our customer, for our student, just like AWS as well.
Yeah, I mean, I when I saw the news, I was so excited just because you two were my favorites. Like that, I felt a long time hesitation to tell you this, Pete, but I also watched Linux Academy even before you all joined forces. But now I have to feel no shame. I can proudly come tell you, hey, I love both platforms and I love all the content you all are putting out.
That's it. You log in, you get both. You can go and choose any course you want. And if you want to go deep, you go deep. If you want to get an intro course, there's an intro course for you. So there's a lot of variety.
Yeah. What's next on your list of questions? All right, you got a whole list over there.
Yeah. So let's see. I think, Dr. Pete, you covered a lot in your demo for us. But I think one thing we didn't really talk about yet is when people are learning on the platform, if they come across a problem, what should they do? What kind of methods do you recommend for tackling those complex problems when you get stuck?
I think it's a great question, and it applies even to your kind of day-to-day job, right? We all hit problems that are difficult. How do we get it done? How do we solve a problem? I think there are a couple of techniques, right? Number one, just taking a step back, going for a walk, sometimes even just clearing your head will lead you to a solution, right? Just taking 5, not being stressed, stepping away and then coming back, it helps. Obviously, Google Stack Overflow is a huge help, right?
Basically how I got my degree.
Yeah. Look, as a former developer myself, I'm not going to lie, that's how we all work, right? We go on Stack Overflow and we look for answers, and then we figure out what it is. So that's a big part of it. So being able to do research and being able to look at what other people have done and built that prior art. So if you are going through content on our platform and you get stuck, I mentioned forums are a great way because you can go and you can ask questions. And I'm sure that if you have a question, others have that question as well. So like, never be shy to ask questions. It's always like that, right? And just being able to reach out to people, like, we are available, we have a support channel as well, and we help. But there are so many great people that will always give you a hand. So not being shy and being, asking questions. I think that's the key. And I may get a lot of Twitter messages after this with lots of questions, which is fine, but we're all here to help one another, right? It's like we said before, this stuff can be a little bit tricky sometimes, so we just have to help the best that we can. So yeah, Google, reach out to us, Stack Overflow, our forums. There are, various mechanisms. What do you guys, Hanara and AM, like, how do you find answers to your problems?
I ask AM all my problems.
I was gonna say I just ask Hanara. We just go. It's an infinite loop. I never break out. Yeah. I don't think you've ever asked me a question, actually, Hanara.
I do.
Really? Okay.
You make it sound like something I should be ashamed of.
You should be asking me for help.
What I do for when I run into a problem, I usually start from scratch, whether it's like sometimes I'll read a new concept and it'll just be filled with technical jargon, and I'm like, I didn't get any of that. And I kind of have to start with the basics and think about, do I really understand this, the foundation of this, or am I just going to regurgitate this technical jargon and just pretend to talk to another person with like fake words? I don't know. But yeah, it really helps to also with the labs to get your hands dirty and learn from doing.
Yeah. And sometimes, like you said, you have to break the problem into smaller problems. So you have to really divide and conquer. And that will often lead you to the right answer as well, if you just take it one step, one bit at a time.
I think it's way different too how I approach a problem depending on what like area the problem is. Like if it's a programming problem, like in a specific language, I'm going to use a lot different resources than if it's like I don't know, a cloud formation problem or an infrastructure problem or networking problem, or working in the SA role, I sometimes end up working all across the wide gamut of technology, and I have to skill up really fast in a lot of these different areas. So it really depends. When I was a dev, I would like just scour GitHub, honestly, because there's somebody who's written code for the thing that you're trying to do most of the time. And just like looking for repos and reading other people's code helped me to learn a lot. Now, if it was like a service issue, I would actually probably go to you all and find a course around, a technical topic, something like that. This is another thing that I tell people, like everybody asks, like, how do I get started? How do I learn how to program specifically is a big question a lot of people ask. Having a project, like a real project, a tangible project. I think the key thing, and this is what a lot of people fall into the trap of, they take a project from work, right? And they're like, oh, I'm going to solve this work problem. And I start solving it, and then I get bored because it's work, and I don't want to work on the weekends. If you can take a problem from your personal life that you actually care about, like not that you don't care about your work. I totally care about my work. It's all I care about, actually. Anyway, if you can find something that you actually like love and it's a problem and you need it solved and it can influence your life, just go build that solution, and you won't stop working on it because you will see tangible benefits from it, instead of like, oh, maybe I'll get promoted if I like figure this out, right? Which, yeah, that could be, it's a motivator to an extent, but like something in your actual life your day to day, solving that will drive you to learn that programming language, right? So that's how, when it comes to programming, I think it's way different. Anyway,
Yeah.
I just
I
got
have something
fired.
to say to that, though.
Just got a Slack message saying I'm fired. So
Hey,
I'm actually not super techy outside of work. I'm not like a hobbyist. I don't like coding and developing and learning outside of work. I like taking care of my plant babies and watching Netflix. So I actually do like diving deep into my work problems because I'm not trying, I don't really try to integrate more tech outside of my work life. And I don't know if that's a bad thing. It's like, you're not a real engineer.
No.
But yeah, I've always like felt a bit insecure about that when I was in school or even just learning because everyone was building something or had some kind of side project and I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't do that. So I think finding a problem even in your work environment, if there's like a new service that's coming out, or if you're finding that your customers or your coworkers are having a common problem, it's kind of a nice tangible way to build something where you can get immediate feedback with people who are in your industry. Whereas if you're like building a little IoT thing for your fridge and then your roommate's like, what is this electric like circuit board attached to our fridge?
Look, I think you're right. It depends a little bit on what you're passionate about. You know, some people are passionate about IoT. I'm, for example, not one of these people myself, right? But I have friends who love everything IoT. So I think Hanara, you're totally right. If you can find something that you're passionate and interested in, and it could be a work project, awesome, right? It will just keep you going. It'll keep you interested. You're solving something that matters. And same for you. If you want to do a side project and you want to build something cool, I don't know, like we actually had one of the projects on A Cloud Guru. We had Keisha Williams. She built this little detector, which would send an alarm whenever somebody would, like one of the kids would take a soda from the fridge. And she just built it for herself, just as a thing. And it's awesome as well. So I think if you can find that passion point, yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to hear about the first thing I ever built?
Please.
So this is where I got the inspiration for like, this is how to learn how to program. And I am not an advocate. I just want to make sure everybody understands. I am not an advocate. I'm not one of these people who are like, you got to spend your time outside work coding to learn how to code. I don't believe that at all. But if you're trying to work on any skill and you want to ramp it up quickly, I mean, you're going to have to do extra work. That's just how it is. Now, when I first got started, I want to learn C#. It was what the startup that I was working at, what language they were using, and so my wife and I were Disney people. We go to Disney World. We don't have children. My manager actually gives me some guff for this. He introduced me as an adult fan of Disney. That's how he tells
Nothing
us.
wrong with it.
Not the way that he says it. Something seems wrong with the way he says it. Anyway, we like to go to Disney World. And if you've ever been to Disney World, what they do is they have these restaurants that are really hard to get into, and you have to make what's called advanced dining reservations. But the UI is like crazy. You have to individually navigate to each of these restaurants to see if they have any openings. So, I was a little burgeoning tech person, and I was like, I bet they're doing something behind the scenes, right? Like, let me try and see if I can figure it out. And so, sure enough, they had an API that they were calling from their web client, right? And so I started like trying to track down what they were doing. And so then I just started like very basic, run from the terminal, like go figure out, are there open reservations for this restaurant, right? And so I built that. And then I was like, oh, this is cool. I can like do it across multiple restaurants and aggregate the data. And then, okay, great. this works for me because I can run it, but my wife, she needs to do this. So maybe I need to build it into a web app. And so that made me go learn, like, how do you take this and make it into a web app so that she could use it, And over the years, that's been my go-to project, honestly. Like when I want to learn something new, like serverless, I was like, oh, this running in a server right now, like ASP.NET application. I bet I could make this into a serverless app and then have it like, run on a cron job, like in CloudWatch events, right? And so, okay, cool. Back in whatever 2016, I was like, that was one of the first things I did to learn serverless. So I've kept this project as a way to learn the next thing. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's just something I enjoy working on, and it benefits. Like my wife was like, "This is so cool." That was my motivation. Was my wife thought it was cool. It's probably been most of my motivation. My wife thinks it's cool.
That's
It's always
good.
trying to win your wife's heart.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Swooning your wife with your AWS skills.
Exactly right. Yeah.
That helps.
Yeah.
It really does. And like you said before about differentiated learning, like you are absolutely spot on. Some people learn better by reading, others watch videos, others like to listen. But I still think that for adults, probably for most adults, the best way to learn is just by doing. It's just by, and yeah, it could just be all in your work setting, and that's what you need to do. But you have to do it, right? You have to apply a kind of your knowledge, because it's the only way you really learn and reinforce what is it that you have understood. So I love hearing this. So cool.
We had a question earlier from Off the Band. Hanara, I think you should answer this. The question was, what is a partner solutions architect? I asked you to answer it because I don't know how to answer it either.
It's man, that's a hard question. I can say what I do for my main job is I look over our partners, AWS partners, architectures, validate it, and give advice for the best practices on their infrastructure and AWS account. And among that, I also do a lot of other things, which include technical content, engagements in events like this. It's just a job, and we were talking about this earlier, that I said I've just started to define for myself. So I have my main goals, and what's awesome about tech, I think, and AWS is you really guide your own career. And if you see something that you can contribute to, like these technical contents or speaking engagements, that's kind of what I do. But it's really a mixed bag question. It's really hard for me to tell my friends what I do. They still think I'm a software developer. So I don't think I do a very good job of explaining it.
It's definitely tough to tell my parents what I do, or my mom rather, what I do. Yeah, she's just like, "Can you fix my iPhone?" But yeah, I have to say my favorite part of the partner side of the SA job, like the SA is what I call one of these. I call them talkie engineers. So engineers that talk to people, right? Like we're software devs or some sort of engineer that knows how to talk to people. Essentially, that's how I look at it, because understanding software and how to build it, but also being able to communicate and shape people's opinion and change their minds is a pretty hard to do thing. And so that's how I look at SA in general, and evangelists and advocates, and like I saw somebody mention the job title customer success engineer, and all these solutions engineer. There's all kinds of job titles that I just bucket into talkie engineers, and if you know me, I definitely meet the criteria. But with the partner side, what I've really loved about it is that I get to have my cake and eat it too. That old Jim I don't know why I'm talking in cliches today, but I get to push the best and the best of AWS, and then also push the best of the stuff that helps you with AWS. So not only do I get to talk about, Lambda and Amplify and all the things that I love, but I also get to talk about, people like Stackery and people like a Cloud Guru and all these things that sit alongside AWS in the cloud and help you work with your AWS account. I don't think it gets much better than that, to be honest. That's one of the cool things I really love about Partner. And all right, it looks like you had a follow-up. Not exactly a software engineer.
Yeah, not a software engineer. I find that my background as a software developer does help me sometimes, but I don't know if it's like part of the job or it just randomly came up because I'm in tech and it was useful. So, yeah.
Dr. Pete, what's your favorite job title in all of tech, other than VP of Education and Research at a Cloud Guru?
Oh my gosh, that is the toughest question you have asked. I don't have a prepared answer for it. I'm actually kind of stumped. What's the best job title? You know what? What you and Hanara have, you got the best job titles. There you go. That's.
I appreciate
you heard it here, folks.
Yeah, I love the pandering. That's my favorite kind of answer.
Yeah, I was going to ask a different question. I was going to ask if you could be an AWS service, which one would you be? That's my favorite question.
Ooh. All right, you go first.
I want to be S3 because I want to know everyone's data.
Yeah, but everybody's business, huh? I don't know. Maybe something like Simple DB, gone but not forgotten.
What about you, Dr. Pete?
You know what? I would always say Lambda, but it's so conventional and so typical, and I think a lot of people say Lambda. Yeah, maybe I'll change my answer, and I feel like I'm stealing it from someone, but I would say maybe ground station, that satellite service, because it's so unusual. But I feel like somebody may have said it to me once, and now I'm just using that person's answer as my own. So, but I'll take ground station.
Okay.
Well, why not, right? It's something new, innovative, different. No one's used it, so
It's true. It's true. Are you a very grounded person? I mean, you seem grounded.
I think so to some extent. Yeah.
Like I would trust you to show up. Like if I was like, hey, meet me at this booth at reInvent, I would expect you to be there. Like
I'll be there.
Out of all the people I know, I feel like I could depend on you to actually show up. Now, it's not true of everyone. There are definitely some people that I would be like, hey, meet me at 6, and I would actually be wanting to meet them at 8, or something, and I just gave them 2 hours early because.
Yeah, I'd be there. I'm so I love reInvent. I love reInvent. Such a cool conference. It's understandable that it's not happening in person this year, but I'm still really looking forward to the virtual event that will happen. Although it's going to run over a week or 2 weeks. It's
3
weeks. Wow.
3
Okay,
weeks.
that will be one long conference.
I'm a little scared for my life and my sanity, but it's going to be fun, I think. We'll see. Maybe we can get Howdy Partner up in there somehow. I don't know.
Let's do it.
Everybody start like
just about myself.
Yeah. If that, yeah, I mean, you're in. If we can get something on, absolutely. We just start a change.org petition to put Howdy Partner in reInvent. So get this from the ground up type thing.
Sounds good.
Well, we've got like 20 minutes left before we definitely have to stop. Hidara, have you exhausted your questions list?
I do want to talk about the diversity in tech.
Yes.
So I was wondering, what is a Cloud Guru doing to help onboard people who don't typically have a traditional tech background, or onboard those who are underrepresented in tech? Because I think you open up an avenue that typically wouldn't exist. So what are you doing to encourage more diversity within this industry?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. And we are genuinely very passionate about diversity and just making tech accessible to people who are underprivileged, and just like making it accessible to democratize, making education democratized to people all over the world. So we worked for quite a few years with Women Who Code. I think we've donated like $250,000 worth of sponsorships and scholarships over the years. I don't know exactly what the status of the program is now, but that was active over the past few years. So that's a really great organization, Women Who Code. Check it out. They do great things. We actually just wrapped up another program, which was happening in May and June. And the program was this. This was an interesting one. So for every cert that our students would upload to our platform, so you get certified, say you get your certified cloud practitioner, upload it to our platform, we would give a free yearly license to somebody in need, to a Cloud Guru, especially to people affected by the current situation in the world, people who may have lost jobs, like people who do need that little bit of help boost. So we donated I think it was 1,000 licenses to a Cloud Guru for a year. And all you had to do was go and get certified, basically, and upload your certification as evidence that you did that. And so these are the kinds of programs that we try to run. I know like all of us, but a few people, especially in the company, like Drew Thurmond, they are like really staunch advocates for underrepresented minorities and just groups, that we would like to help. And it would be great to have him on the show one day to talk about kind of everything that he does as well. But I'm sure that we'll be doing a lot more in the coming months, weeks, years, because it's a great thing to do.
One of my favorite things was Forrest's Cloud Resume Challenge that I saw on LinkedIn just recently. You should go add Forrest on LinkedIn if you haven't already. Yeah, he was just like reviewing people's resumes. It looked like, from what I could see. I mean, he's a great guy. Number one, you already mentioned his rapping abilities. Obviously, are unparalleled.
Supreme, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm just jealous. Yeah.
I thought this was a really cool way of, offering a service for free, essentially. What it seemed like of one of the hardest things to get through, right? Like actually getting that resume across the line into the company you want to work for is a massive challenge. Took me years before like quote unquote real companies or like major companies would pay attention, because I had to build up that experience, and I was older, and so like there were always questions about like, well, what were you doing from these years? And they were like, why were you a teacher? And I had to explain like, well, I didn't start out in this world, I've been chipping away at it. So yeah, like knowing the key words and phrases and ways to present yourself on a resume is part of the trick, right? Like it's part of the unspoken, not taught anywhere type thing that, where do you learn
100%.
it?
Yeah. And it just comes with experience most of the time, right? You have to, go through a few jobs before you do figure it out. So yeah, what Forrest is doing is awesome, and hats off to him. It's a great initiative, helping people with their resumes really. If they do a challenge, he also created a little game recently. I know you have seen it. It's just it's a fun little game where you have to kind of solve various challenges, and then you are in the running for some prizes. So that is very cool. So yeah, you can just, if you go to the A Cloud Guru's Twitter account, for example, you'll find some links to it, or if you go to our platform as well.
I got you. I just dropped the link in
awesome.
there.
Thank you. Yeah. So there's a lot of cool stuff. But look, diversity in tech is very important, and we all need to do a better job as a community to promote it, to make it better, to make tech more accessible to everybody. Like it's really on us as people who are now in it to make it happen. So look, I hope we all continue to do as much as we can.
I mean, I feel like just talking about it in general, like is one of the first and best steps to take, right? To even acknowledge that there is a clear divide between who is represented in tech and who is not. You can't even start to fix something if you aren't talking about it. So just the fact that you all are actively working on it as a problem, I think is a great step in the right direction. And programs like Women Who Code is obviously a really great program to support. So I'm happy to hear that you all are.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, look, I'm sure. So watch the space. Basically, I'm sure there'll be more great stuff coming out. And yeah, look, I think everybody's very keen to make progress in this area. For all of our sake, really, it's just we all need to do this. So, and look, I know AWS does a lot of great stuff as well in this area. So AWS promotes diversity in all various facets, which is really excellent to see. And I think when a big company like that does it, it really sets the tone for everybody else, and everybody else kind of sees and follows it as well. So that's a really good thing too.
Yeah, I think even though I am a minority in my industry, being female, I didn't really understand why diversity was so important. Now that I'm in industry and I am in more male-dominated audiences, it's clear what happens when there isn't diversity. You have very biased content, you have very biased language, and it moves things extremely slowly. And to me, of course, you want to build up a diverse amount of talent to people who typically haven't had opportunities like this. But really, for any company, diversity and a variety of perspectives, streamline processes, it mitigates a lot of pitfalls that typically one group of people wouldn't be able to see, but you add different backgrounds and you start seeing problems that you can mitigate from the start. You have content that is able to be consumed by everyone. And I think people have a perspective that when you start to share your piece of the pie, you start losing your piece of the pie. And there's not enough for you as there was before. But I think when we start to expand our demographics, we start to reach a larger audience, and suddenly the pie grows larger and you need all the help you can get. So yeah, it's really important. And I think A Cloud Guru does a really good job of creating content that is inclusive and easy to consume for people of all skill level. And I think education, I'm very passionate about education and training. That's why I'm so involved in Game Day, because I think things like this help bridge that gap and bring us closer to where we want to be.
That's it. You know what? Like our mission here, and this applies to A Cloud Guru, to AWS, to everybody, is to democratize education as much as possible. you shouldn't have to pay, crazy amounts of money or be in a particular location to get great education and a chance at a better life. Like you should be able to be anywhere, right? Anywhere on earth, and you shouldn't have to, earn X amount of money or go into debt for education and then for a chance at a good job. Like it should be based on you, on your talent, right? It shouldn't be based on anything else. And so it's great that we can all kind of commit to this mission and bring great education to people all over the world. And I think if we can do it, we have done what we've set out to do. And it's great. Yeah, thank you for having me on this, and we can talk about this. It's important.
I love it. So we've got probably about 5 minutes before we have to sign off. Dr. Pete, I want to throw it to you. We've talked about a lot of things and a lot of important things. I think diversity and inclusion, massive initiative that needs as much attention as possible. I think, Anar, you just called out one of the greatest fallacies that accompany a lot of impediments to diversity and inclusion of, well, if I give up my spot, there's not going to be enough spots for me down the line. That's such a fallacy. Like as things grow, again, I'm going to talk in all cliches today. That's apparently my thing. But when you rise the water, the boats rise with you, type thing, right? Like it's not about there not being enough room. There's plenty of space for everyone. Tech is for everyone. I say that as an outsider who was told before I got started that you'll never succeed in this, right? Like you'll never do this well because you don't have that type of brain. You don't understand math. You don't understand problem solving. You just go write your papers, English major, whatever. Nobody said that, but they definitely told me that I would not succeed because I did not know or did not have the mind for math, right, type thing. Not to say that people with the mind for math also won't succeed, right? It's just all about the opportunities you're given, and I think it's important to focus on getting those opportunities to as many types of people as possible. So, Dr. Pete, let's throw it to you. If somebody were tuning in for the first time, had never heard of a cloud guru, what would you tell them to go do? What do you want them to walk away with from today?
Well, look, just remember that education is for everyone. It doesn't have to be boring or just uninteresting. It can be exciting. It can teach you a lot of stuff, and it can really kind of, make your life, your job just much more enjoyable and successful. So I would say go sign up to A Cloud Guru. There's a lot of great stuff on it. We have a whole bunch of free community content that we produce. There are a lot of great certification courses, hands-on labs. Look, what we do is for you, we want you to be a better expert. We want you to learn new technologies, and more importantly, we want you to walk away with great new skills. So whether you are an individual or a company, great education is at your fingertips. It's all up to you now. There is that opportunity to go and get that education. So I hope you take it up.
And Hanara, any advice for somebody just starting out in their career, interested in tech? What would you tell them to go to?
I would definitely say to start getting educated, to utilize a network. There's a lot of people who are passionate about getting more diversity into tech, or just any newbie who wants to get into tech at like meetups. That's what I did to start networking, and just expanding who get to know other kinds of roles. Listen into stuff like this, get to know all the different types of roles that you might be interested in. And also don't let the technical jargon scare you. I have a theory that people who speak in technical jargon to each other don't know what the other person is talking about, but you just continue doing it. That's my theory because that's what happens to me. It's like, what did you say? Yeah, Kubernetes, right? So just keep going, and it's not rocket science. I don't know why people make it sound so complicated. You have some awesome content here with a Cloud Guru. So yeah, get started.
Somebody full stack agrees with you, Hanara, on chat. So, yeah. Yeah. And my advice is to go hunt down Hanara and get her to run a game day for you. That's my advice getting started. All right. Well, go visit a Cloud Guru, go sign up. It is worth the time. It is worth the money. It is an incredible service to help you with your tech career. And with that next certification, that's the other thing too. That's a great way to stand out in a crowd of people, is to have those AWS certifications. Those could open some doors for you too. So with that being said, we always sign off, Dr. Pete, with one of three different sign-off phrases, I guess. That's not a thing. That's not a phrase. But we say, y'all come back now, you hear, because this is Howdy Partner. Happy trails. And what's the third one? I always forget the third one. Mo's done a really good job at remembering all of them now. I'll just give you two, because that's all I can remember, because my brain doesn't work anymore. So y'all come back now, you hear, or happy trails? Which one do you pick, Dr. Pete?
Let's do the first one.
Okay. So I'm going to count to three, and then we all say that, and then we're gone.